We want to look at one of the events in Israel's history that is important even in modern day Jewish culture, and it's referred to as the Passover. And just the historical background of this has to do with the Exodus and the Israelites coming out of Egypt. What happened is that when Moses went to Egypt to take the people out, the Lord started unleashing these plagues upon the Egyptians, just plague after plague after plague, and decimated the nation of Egypt to a place eventually where they wanted the Israelites to get out. But before they reached that point, there was one final plague, what we call the 10th plague, that brought about the death of all the firstborn individuals in Egypt. And this was a catastrophic plague for the Egyptians. And there was a way that the Lord enabled the Israelites to avoid this death of their firstborn, and for the angel of death to pass over. That's why we get this term Passover from this, the angel of death passing over. In Hebrew, the term is Pesach. And what was involved in the Passover was not just the angel of death passing over, that commemoration, but also a meal that took place. That the Israelites in these homes that had the blood of a lamb put over the doorpost, they actually engaged in a ceremony of sorts and ate a number of different items, and there was some elaborate preparation made for this meal. But the central piece of that meal was the lamb that was used for the blood that was put on the door frames was eaten, and there were stipulations put in the book of Exodus for this lamb, and I'll just direct your attention to two of them. The first is that this lamb was to be blemishless. It was a blemishless sacrifice of sorts. And then the second thing that is stipulated is that this lamb would have no broken bones. And that might have seemed strange to the Israelites at that time. I don't know, they were familiar with animal sacrifice, and those predated the Passover, predated the book of Exodus. But in this case, they were to choose a blemishless lamb, and a lamb as well that was without, as part of its blemishlessness, had no bones broken in them. Now, as we come to the New Testament and we try to connect what the New Testament authors see as this lamb, there's a connection that even Jesus makes when he's taking communion, or the first Lord's Supper, because they have the bread, they have the wine, they have all of the elements of the Passover. He basically was enjoying Passover with them, but there's no lamb. You might say, well, why is there no lamb in the communion feast? Well, John tells us that Christ, even that as he was dying on the cross, none of his bones were broken. And he references through Psalms this Passover meal where no bones were broken. And we even know from New Testament authors, including Paul in 1 Corinthians 5:7, he would say about the Passover meal, cleanse out the old leaven that you may be a new lump. You see the imagery there with the Passover, with some other elements to the celebration. As you really are unleavened. Why? Because Christ, our Passover lamb, has been sacrificed. You see, this Old Testament ceremony pointed forward to a blemishless sacrifice that died without any of his bones broken. In fact, it's quite a marvel that Jesus' bones weren't broken on the cross, because he was tortured beyond belief. Even before he went on the cross, he was thrashed within an inch of his life. But yet, even as they took his body off the cross, no bones were broken. He's a true and better Passover lamb for us. Peter makes a similar observation in 1 Peter 1. He says, know that you were ransomed from the futile ways inherited from your forefathers, not with perishable things such as silver or gold. You were ransomed with the precious blood of Christ, like that of a lamb without blemish or spot. So, Passover in the Old Testament and the Passover lamb is now fulfilled in the New Testament era in our Passover lamb, Jesus Christ, who died for our sins so that we might pass over death and receive eternal life.